Hello, and welcome to WireWheel's weekly privacy roll-up. I'm Rick Buck, and I'm Chief Privacy Officer at WireWheel. Last week, we spoke about the importance of data minimization. This week, I'm going to look at data under a slightly different lens and talk about the concept of data remediation. I was inspired to talk about this from an article I read last week in CPO magazine, and it was written by a gentleman by the name of Amar Kanagaraj, and hopefully, Amar, I've said your name correctly, but thank you for writing such a thoughtful article. So when we think about data remediation, what does that actually mean? Data remediation is the process of cleaning and organizing and migrating data to safe and secure environments for optimized usage. A lot of people think that remediation simply means deleting unnecessary data or unused data, but data remediation goes deeper than that. And it's more detailed, and it contemplates replacing or updating or modifying necessary data at the same time as cleaning or organizing or deleting data that's no longer necessary. As we think about data remediation as a process, there are 5 stages that you should think about as you are planning for this, and their importance as it relates to privacy and security. First, you want to assess your data. You want to understand the types of data, the uses of the data, and the value of that data. And then based on that information, determine the time and resources you're going to need to remediate against any of the issues that come up along the way. The second thing that you're going to want to do is organize and segment data. And in this category, there are 3 things to think about. First off is data classification. And we're going to talk a little bit more about data classification in just a minute. But from a data classification point of view, you want to classify data into specific categories. And you want to think about storing each of those categories separately based on their importance, based on their value, based on the severity or the risk associated with that data. And by doing so, you're decreasing your risks in the event of a data breach, and you're reducing the risk of the implications of data contamination. The second thing from an organization and segmentation point of view is data accessibility. If you don't already have them, policies should be created and controls should be created around those policies to ensure that easily accessible data, to ensure that data that's used routinely is easily accessible, and that sensitive or high value data is protected and has limited access according to the nature of that data. And then the third thing to think about from an organizational or segmentation point of view is data retention. GDPR and many of the new state laws require businesses to limit retention to as long as necessary. In putting some policy behind this, you should think about retention and destruction schedules that are commensurate for each of the categories that you have come up with. So let's talk about that, data classification itself. And this is the third step. You want to organize structured and unstructured data into defined categories. And classifications are based on a number of things. For example, business needs or the level of sensitivity of the data. And data classifications certainly fall into a number of generally obvious categories, but they include things like public data, confidential data, restrictive data, sensitive data, personal data, employee data, redacted data, and de-anonymized data, et cetera, et cetera. Clarifying the data helps the business improve risk management. It helps business adhere to regulatory and compliance obligations, and it helps to prioritize your security measures. The fourth thing that you want to think about as it relates to this is migrating data. And what migrating data means is looking at moving data from old and obsolete legacy systems and moving them to more scalable and clean environments. And again, doing this helps ensure that you have better data security compliance and helps you better manage accessibility and the controls around that. And then the fifth thing to think about is data cleansing. And this is really a critical part of the data remediation story. Often data that's in storage is incomplete or it's inaccurate, maybe duplicative, it may be corrupt or it may be beyond its life cycle. And this type of data has the potential to overwhelm your data management systems, It certainly has the ability to impact the quality of the data that's stored, and that data should be identified, modified, and or deleted. So a little bit to think about as we talk about this, and as you're coming along your remediation journey, remember a couple things. You want to ensure that your data is clean and accurate and secure and compliant with privacy and security laws and policies. You want to make sure that you move your data to secure and clean environments. And remember that poor or unregulated data lowers your operational efficiency. It impacts your the effect on decision making. It certainly is burdensome to your network, to your data network. It increases risks associated with data breaches, and it increases risks of non-compliance with data privacy and security regulations. So some good housekeeping tips on running a tight ship with your data. Data remediation certainly is one of the things that you should be thinking about. That's it for this week. Thank you for tuning into WireWheel's weekly privacy roll-up. Join me again next week as we talk about the latest news in the world of privacy. Certainly, if you have any questions about today's topic or any other privacy-related issues, please email us at marketing@wirewheel.io, and be sure to watch WireWheel's LinkedIn page for future dates and times of our broadcast. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Bye now.